Welcome to the HIO show, everybody. Happy New Year. I'm joined this week by former Canadian Chris Nyland of TSN Radio 690, columnist Jack Todd, and a first-time guest, Eric Engels from Sportsnet. Chris, the Canadiens reached the midway point of the season with 47 points. Last year, it took 98 to make the playoffs. Is it time to start wondering now or worrying if this team's even going to make the postseason?
Certainly not looking good. I mean, they could be teetering with that last spot there, battling right to the end of the season if they don't turn this thing around. There were some positive signs, obviously, in the Winter Classic, but then coming back last night in Philadelphia, it's like, what happened? They didn't look like they were skating. Philly, they did a pretty good job against them, but there was no pushback. There was no fight in that team last night. Again, one of the only guys, Gallagher, and Yemelin, trying to throw his weight around to wake this team up, and they're certainly having their struggles right now. It doesn't look too good.
Terry said their heads were in the clouds from the Winter Classic. Is that an excuse? There's no excuses with this team, though. Yeah, the team that has no excuses always has an excuse, seems to me. But there's no excuse for turning in a game like that. And it's, to me, the problem is right at the top. It's the stars who were supposed to step in when you didn't have Carey Price. 2 and 3, whichever order you want to say, Subban and Pacioretty, they just haven't gotten it done. And we have this ludicrous thing with Pacioretty winning the Molson Cup for December. Well, he was the biggest problem in December.
Well, it's voting for the Stars, and I don't think anybody cares about the Molson Cup, but what they should care about is the fact that, like you just said, Stu, it's 47 points in 41 games. That projects to 94 points and a potential that they could miss the playoffs in a year that their window is supposed to be open here. I mean, Carey Price's contract is up in 2 years from now. Max Pacioretty's $4.5 million cap hit is going to change 3 years from now. I mean, these guys are going to be making big money. I don't know how they're going to keep this thing together. And right now, Marc Bergevin might be thinking, should I be keeping it together? Because look at where they are. I mean, they're 3 points up on the 9th place Senators after they had an 11-point lead over the next best team in their division. They're 5 points behind the Panthers now, who just won 10 games. That's amazing, but it's remarkable that the Canadiens could be the same team that started off with 9 straight wins, having lost 13 of the last 16.
It seems like the wheels are falling off, Chris, and of course the heat always comes on the coach. Do you see any scenario where Michel Therrien gets fired this season?
Wow, yeah, I mean, if they go 0 for the rest of the way, for sure. But, God, it's nice to think you get Carey Price back, but it still doesn't solve the problem of scoring goals. It seems like they dried up in that area. Yeah, last night 3 goals, but it was like that. It looked like a close game to score, but it wasn't a close game at all against the Philadelphia Flyers, a team that is struggling. So it has struggled during the season. So, I remember the beginning of the year, the winning record, everybody was jumping up saying, see, we're not just about Carey Price, we're scoring goals. Well, those goals are gone now, and it's beginning to look more and more like, Carey Price is the guy.
Well, some of the numbers heading into the New Jersey game, Plekanec 1 goal in 25 games, Eller 1 goal 22 games, Fleischmann 1 goal 19 games, Desharnais 1 goal 19 games. They say your best players need to be your best. Who's the biggest disappointment, do you think, right now?
Well, I would say Pacioretty is the biggest disappointment just because of where he's supposed to be. Once you get past that, I know Plekanec isn't scoring, but that hasn't really been his role through history. He's more the two-way Patrice Bergeron kind of guy. That and the fact that PK has only 1 goal. And watching this Gostisbehere kid, whose name I can't spell or pronounce, but he's got 7 goals now. Yeah, I think you have 2 or 3 other rookie defensemen with 6 goals. And PK Subban, who has arguably the biggest shot on the blue line in the league, has 1 goal.
But Jack, I mean, the past is irrelevant when it comes to Thomas Plekanec. 1 goal in 25 games playing as the number 1 center on this team. Everybody looks at Pacioretty. He's got 16 goals. He's leading the Canadiens in scoring. The fact is, when you look at this roster, and as they won 9 games in a row and they got depth scoring all the way through, they don't have enough superstar talent to have those guys carry the team. They need everybody pulling in the same direction. I mean, Torrey Mitchell hasn't been the same player since he got back from his injury. I'm not saying that this whole thing is on Torrey Mitchell, but if they don't have everybody pulling, if they don't have those 4 lines going, they're not
a big team either. They're not a big team. You look at Byron, Carr, the 4th line, there's some small guys. So, that speed thing is great, but if you don't insulate those small guys and you're not scoring off the rush or off the cycle quickly, and you get in those one-on-one battles that you lose, puck is out of the zone, and it's in your end. So, yeah, there's a lot of bad signs here.
That Gallagher effect at the Winter Classic, how can one guy have such an impact on a team? I don't know.
And then he was still playing against Philadelphia when, all except 3 or 4 other guys weren't. He's an amazing player. I don't think there's any doubt that he's kind of the unheralded C on this team, no matter who's wearing it. When it comes to really getting a team going, he can do more than anyone, including PK, which is kind of disappointing.
Well, Daniel Carr with 5 goals in 14 games, I sort of say he's almost like Brendan Gallagher light. Do you think it might be worth giving him a little bit more ice time, Eric?
I don't think so. I think he's great slotted into the third line. And I think more to Chris's point, which is an excellent one, you look at the size of the team. I mean, everybody was pining for Charles Hudon to get into more games. You watch him play against some of the teams. Yes, he did some good things offensively, but he's so easily pushed off the puck. He just doesn't have that strength yet. It's the same thing with Andrew Ghetto, who people are wondering, why is this guy sitting out of the lineup? Well, he gets pushed off the puck pretty easily as well. You need those lines to wear down the opposition so that your stars can break through. And I'm sure Chris could talk to that. He knows what that's all about. But it's Daniel Carr, I think, projects throughout his entire career is going to be a great third-line player who could chip in with 15 to 18 goals, and he's got a nose for the net. But if that's the guy you need to depend on to bring things up a level on the next 2 lines, there's a major problem, and that comes to Marc Bergevin right now.
Well, it's almost like the small guys are playing big and the big guys are playing small, Chris.
Well, they are, and Carr scores his goals around the net. He goes to those tough areas. You need more guys to do that, and they don't. To the point about PK having 1 goal, he doesn't hit the net. When he gets his shot through, he doesn't hit the net. And then, when he does, it usually gets blocked. He got a big wind-up, and again, all right, he's a Norris Trophy winner, I get it. I can't tell him how to play and all that, but fact of the matter is he misses the net a lot. He doesn't hit the net.
I've spoken to PK exactly about that point, Chris, just saying, why don't you consider taking a few more wrist shots to the net just to get them through? I mean, you're like Shea Weber is a similar player who his one-timer, the defense always keys in on, and he's a guy that he scored 11 goals this year when he has hit the net. PK's shooting percentage is 1%. He might just want to float a couple wristers in there because they might hit a body and go in.
We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back, everybody. The last time you guys probably saw Knuckles here was at the Winter Classic, playing with the Canadiens alumni team. Chris, what was that experience like for you?
A lot of fun. Just it was great to see all the guys I played with, guys that played for the Canadiens I didn't play with, guys I played with the Bruins, and guys I fought with the Bruins. And I was in both rooms talking it up. We had a real good time. It was a great experience to be out there on the ice. My kids were there, my grandchildren. It was just
You're too young to have grandkids.
Yeah, no, I'm not. But I would have liked to have scored on that shootout opportunity, but they threw a curveball at me. They're supposed to use a goaltender from my time, not from the recent NHL, because when I was going down on them, let me tell you, I got to tell you, I feel for these players today with the equipment and how big they look. Andrew Raycroft looked like, Ben Bishop when I was coming down on him.
You had him beat, though.
Yeah, I did have him beat. I just didn't get up. But again, it was a lot of fun. The Bruins put on a great time. I'd do that again in a heartbeat.
Eric, you and I were both out there. Just your thoughts on the experience of the Winter Classic?
Atmosphere was unbelievable. I mean, we were stuck in a press box behind the glass, but if you walked out into the open-air stadium, it was a racket. Even during the alumni game, they drew a great crowd for that game. Over 40,000 people were there. And it was just a wonderful winter experience, exactly what the NHL was hoping for, and more to the point, just walking around the hotels, being around everybody, the NHL all together, all the different people, all the different media people, all the different former players, catching up with a guy like Mike Keane, a guy with Lyle Odeline, who's hilarious. I mean, it was a great experience for a reporter there.
I like Mike Keane. He goes to my barber now. Now, PK, so we were talking about PK a little earlier. He's playing all 2 minutes of every power play, it seems, Jack, and we're talking about not getting the shot through. Is it time to maybe look at another
for
option?
For sure. He's not changing up his game. Everybody blames the coach for everything that happens here. But to some degree, PK himself has to get over his addiction to his slap shot, make some adjustments. You always hear this in baseball, not so much in hockey, but no matter what you do, they adjust to you, and then it's how you adjust in return. I don't see the adjustment, and when it's not coming, Barberio looks great. I don't know how they're going to get him out of here. I'd like to see him out there for a while.
Yeah, just your thoughts on Barberio. To me, he looks
he's played well.
And he's rushing the puck up.
Listen, he's been steady. It's great. He's a local kid and all that, but if he's not going to get the job done, he's not going to play. And so far, he has certainly stepped up to the plate. He got a good first pass. He's been jumping up in the play at opportune times, and he looks good out there. This team, and looking at him last night too, when they were playing well, they had support all over the ice. They were supporting the puck carrier. They were coming back to the puck, coming up the ice together. Last night, they were so stretched out. They looked so confused, just couldn't get it done.
Eric, you were talking about the window of opportunity with Bergevin. How much longer can he wait before he makes a trade?
Well, he's waited a long time, and I think it's just a function of the fact that the market is jammed. And, he's a guy that if he is going to make a trade, he wants it to be an impactful one that helps them now and helps them in the future. And the names that you hear filtering onto the market, whether it be Jonathan Drouin or Ryan Johansson, if he wants to get one of those guys, he's got to give up a lot of key assets to do it. And he has to make sure he's making the right trade if he does. And right now, he might be looking at the situation and say, Carey Price has played 12 games. We have 47 points. Might be better than some people would have given us at the beginning of the year if they had been told that Carey Price would only be in 12 games. And he might just be that patient. Michel Therrien might not be that patient. He might not be willing to wait for what Bergevin has down the pipeline.
Everybody's talking about Drouin, get Drouin, but, they're going to want Galchenyuk.
Yeah.
So you want to give up Galchenyuk? Go
for
right
a guy
ahead.
who hasn't proven himself yet in the NHL.
It would be more like Drouin for Johansson and maybe a couple throw-ins.
Would you give up Galchenyuk for Johansson?
No, I wouldn't. I don't like Johansson's attitude. I think he's been a problem. He was a problem with his contract. He whined and moaned. To me, he seems like a selfish player. That's the last thing they need here.
Would you even consider a trade of Max Pacioretty if something came up?
If it was the right deal, I would. His stock, I think, is still high despite this season. You have to get the right player in return. But I said this week in the column, we kind of know what Max is. He's going to get his 30 goals. He's going to get you game-winning goals. He's going to kill penalties. That's a lot of good things for a sniper to do. We also know what he won't do. He can't really put a team on his back and carry it when they're going through a stretch like this.
You'd obviously need to get some kind of scoring in return.
I'm not sure the game is suited for one guy to put the team on the back and carry it anymore. I mean, I really think the reason you saw the Canadiens win 4 games in a row, the reason 9 games in a row at the beginning of the year, the reason you see the Panthers win 10 games in a row just now is they have every guy going. When you have 4 lines that you could push out there, the Canadiens were running teams over in the third period. I mean, the thought of trading Pacioretty for me is ludicrous. There's 2 players in the league that have scored more even strength goals than this guy has. And the notion that he'll never be a playoff performer, I think, is completely, overcooked by a lot of people who don't believe that, because he's not playing like Brendan Gallagher, he can't be effective in the playoffs. I watched Brett Hall my whole life find dead spaces in the offensive zone and score phenomenal goals. He was one of the best goal scorers of all time. Not everybody is suited to be Brendan Gallagher, and not everybody has to be.
One guy who might look good in a Habs uniform right now, you wonder, would be Jaromir Jagr, who is just, Chrissy's going crazy in Florida.
Again, yeah, he's playing well down there, and it looks good and all that, but I wonder what's his motives for playing. Is he really playing because he loves the game, or is he really playing because he's got to pay Vegas off? I don't know. Do you want a guy like that? They talk about speed being so important here, and that's one thing he doesn't have for sure. He's a smart hockey player, no question about it. He can score goals. He'd be great in the power play. He can control the corners and stuff like that. But is he really gonna, push the pace to win hockey games and for the right reasons?
So that's why Gauthier passed on him. That's why Bergevin passed on him 2 times. They didn't feel that his speed fit in with the Canadiens. I mean, you look at what he can do on the power play, and you look at a Montreal power play that's been good for about 6 weeks in the last 2 years, and you start to scratch your head and say, geez, it might be worth, the speed disadvantage to put that guy out there. If Alex Galchenyuk can become that guy, and it looks like he's getting closer, the Canadiens' power play is going to get better, I think.
Jack, quickly, do you see Carey Price coming back, or is it time to worry that maybe he's not going to come back this season?
I would be very worried that he's not coming back. It's drug on so long, but like Chris now apparently has the same injury. It's just time and waiting. They're saying by the 19th at the earliest, it better be, because they can't go without him much longer.
Well, that's it for this week's show. We'll talk to you all again next week.